If you need help deciding whether Headquarters World War II is the right turn-based strategy game for you, this video will answer all of your questions by starting with a 60-second, too long didn't read overview of the game, before looking at the detailed mechanics so you can get a real feel for what it's like to actually play it, while contrasting similar games along the way and answering some more practical questions to help you decide whether this game is worth your time and money today. Set in 1944, there are 3 single-player campaigns, where you can play as either the Germans, British or Americans, along with skirmish modes against the AI or real people online, and there's a detailed map editor so you can create and share maps of your own. Each campaign features 9 missions, decent voice acting, a wide variety of units, and cinematic camera angles reminiscent of the first Company of Heroes. The gameplay itself is a grid-based system where units can move a certain number of squares each turn and can shoot twice, if you want, or reserve their shots to shoot back when it's your opponent's turn. This flexibility results in a certain ebb and flow that turn-based games so often lack, as several units can end up exchanging fire multiple times per turn. So if you like the sound of an easy-to-pick-up World War II strategy game with immersive visuals, 3 well-written campaigns, and surprisingly realistic thumping sound effects, then Headquarters World War II might be your cup of tea. If that's not put you off, then let's delve into the detail of what it's like to actually play the game, starting with the campaigns. But bear in mind that the basic mechanics are exactly the same between the campaigns and skirmish modes. Whichever of the 3 campaigns you choose to start with, each mission is based on a real battle in Normandy, with the Americans starting on Omaha Beach and ending with the battle for Brest. The Brits start behind enemy lines, capturing bridges, and finish at the Battle of the Falaise Pocket. And the Germans start by attempting to defend the Atlantic Wall and, again, finish at the Falaise Pocket. Your unit choice when going into a mission will often determine the outcome before you've even started, so you must pay close attention as each mission is introduced and explained by surprisingly decent voice acting, except that the German officers are voiced rather disappointingly with English accents. Ultimately, the story and graphics result in a strong sense of World War II immersion that's only slightly let down by the underwhelming music compared to other World War II strategy titles such as Hearts of Iron 4. You can move the camera freely around the map in what is a pretty gorgeous-looking environment, considering this is a top-down strategy game, where you can zoom right into the detail, though it would be nice to zoom out further before the game automatically engages the top-down tactical map. The camera angles in this game are noteworthy, as you'll often see a short cutscene of one unit attacking another, getting right up close to the action with surprisingly detailed animations, provided you don't look too closely at the infantry squads running. Seeing the action unfold from this perspective is refreshing for this style of game, and works well with ongoing exchanges of fire during each turn, but they are skippable if you just want to get on with it. The overall mission objectives feel relevant and make good tactical sense and will appeal to the World War II history buffs, but ultimately the actual gameplay boils down to capturing a flag or equipment by placing a unit there, or destroying enemy units, all within a certain number of turns. Though as you play through each mission, the objectives are kept interesting, as fresh enemy troops are introduced throughout most missions, often bringing new main and secondary objectives to your attention. So you'll often find yourself pulled from one side of the map to the other, or indeed stretched thin, attempting to attack or defend multiple objectives with limited resources. And now for the juicy bit, the units. As you can see on screen right now, there's a decent variety of units for each faction, but we're basically talking infantry and cavalry, and do bear in mind this game focuses on 1944 only, so there's not as wide a choice of military hardware as, say, Steel Division 2 or Gates of Hell Ostfront, with only the occasional cameo from planes and ships. Each unit has a varying number of movement points per turn, where a scout car can move much further than an infantry squad on foot, for example, though there are troop carriers from basic trucks to armed half-tracks to speed your infantry along. Although movement points are limited in total, you can use them in as many separate moves as you like, giving you the option to move, move and shoot again in the same turn, without being penalized. Different tiles have different move costs depending on the type of terrain, i.e. forests use up more movement points to traverse per square. You can also reverse armoured units, so their frontal armour is facing the enemy at all times. You can also rotate them however you like, and vehicles can have their tracks specifically targeted and disabled, massively restricting their movement until they are repaired. By default, each unit can take up to 2 shots during their turn. Then, when it's your opponent's turn, each of your units has at least 1 shot with which to defend themselves. However, if you choose not to use one or both of your attacking shots, those unused shots for that unit are added to that unit's defensive shot when it's your opponent's turn. Or in other words, by not shooting at all, a unit can then defend itself with up to 3 shots. This number of offensive and defensive shots results in an exchange of fire between a variety of units each turn. Unlike many turn-based strategy games, that can be more like watching 2 people taking turns to slap each other. Then finally, units don't have hit points as such. A unit is destroyed when it loses all of its pips. Each pip represents a crew or squad member of that unit. And when each unit takes 1 damage, they lose 1 crew member, which will have an effect on the unit. For example, a tank losing a driver will have reduced movement points. The loss of a gunner will reduce the number of shots that they can take, and so on. Before taking a shot, the game will show you a detailed combat prediction. In fact, if you open up the detail, the game will show you precisely how it has calculated the probability of you landing a shot and how much damage it will do. We're still dealing with RNG, as these are still only percentages, but the game does provide a wealth of information to help you make more informed decisions. As with any strategy game, there are soft and hard counters to exploit, but you'll soon realize that the hard counters in this game are seriously hard. For example, a sniper squad can easily wipe an infantry squad in 1 turn, and an anti-tank squad will basically delete a tank. Although frustrating at first, what this does is force you to double down on combined arms warfare, and tread carefully with proper scouting, as one wrong move without knowing what's ahead can easily result in the loss of an important unit, before you have much chance to do anything about it. The cover and line of sight systems in Headquarters World War II are surprisingly similar to Company of Heroes 3, where the terrain and buildings provide varying levels of cover on all sides of each unit. Almost all buildings can be destroyed with 4 stages of integrity, and of course the more destroyed a building is, the less cover and camouflage it will provide. Elevated terrain provides a height advantage that exploits weak armor values on the top of vehicles, for example, while also providing increased cover, line of sight, and accuracy. There's a wide variety of terrain, some with increased movement costs depending on whether a unit is on foot, wheel, or track, and different tiles can affect a unit's camouflage rating along with their armor or protection, all of which ensures tanks enjoy the open road while infantry prefer to hide in forests or urban settings. There are some basic spotting and camouflage mechanics based on the rating each unit has for both, which can also be affected by the terrain and weather conditions. Speaking of which, there is unfortunately no dynamic weather system. It's just some missions are dark or rainy. In addition to movement and attacking options, each unit has at least 1 other action it can perform. Vehicles can move destroyed vehicles, scouts can reveal enemy units, some can deploy smoke screens, infantry have anti-tank grenades, artillery can bombard, you get the picture. Along with each unit's health, there are also morale mechanics. Below 50% morale, a unit cannot attack or overwatch, but can return fire. When at 0 morale, they flee 1 tile, then any further attack routs the unit, destroying it, no matter how healthy it is. Reducing morale is a good way of dealing with enemy units that have high cover and are difficult to actually hit, as basically every shot will reduce morale, so no matter how well entrenched a unit is, if you pummel it enough, you will eventually see results. As a commander, you can call in abilities with a cooldown, such as a dive bomber, you can replenish troops, there's a naval bombardment, and a scout plane, etc. And they change slightly for each mission to mix things up. There are 4 difficulty options to choose from, but they are fully customizable. Though ultimately you just change the accuracy and damage of your troops and the AI's troops to tweak the difficulty, as there's no noticeable change in the AI's tactics on the harder difficulty settings. The AI mostly plays a defensive game. It can attack occasionally, but often leaves itself exposed by doing so. To be honest, the AI is a bit disappointing, but I'd caveat that with I've yet to find a real-time or turn-based strategy game where the AI is genuinely decent. Once a mission is over, you have quite a bit to do before starting the next mission. You have core troops that stay with you throughout the game. Although you may lose them in battle, they don't really go anywhere. I guess you just lose their experience. So it's not really a dynamic campaign in the true sense, but your units do level up over time, and once they reach a new level, you can unlock new abilities. You can customize the appearance of each unit, purchase troop carriers for your infantry, or swap out a unit for an entirely different unit to better suit the next mission. There's also an officer skill tree split between infantry, armor, and artillery bonuses for even more upgrades, and then you have heroes such as Richard Winters that can be attached to certain units, providing an even more potent boost for that unit. As I said, there's a lot to do between each mission, but you don't lose or gain units as such, you just exchange them to better suit the next mission. When you look at the skirmish mode, you can play up to 2v2 on 6 maps, which isn't a lot, but then there is the map editor. The gameplay is exactly as I've described in the campaign, but the deployment mechanics are more like Men of War Assault Squad 2 or Gates of Hell Ostfront, where your deployment points accumulate over time, and you therefore deploy your troops over time to fight over control points over a limited number of turns. Hopefully by now you have an idea of what it's like to actually play Headquarters World War II, so let's address some other more practical considerations to help you decide whether the game is right for you today. The learning curve is somewhere between low to non-existent, depending on how many turn-based strategy games you've played before. Most levels will take somewhere between 45 to 90 minutes to play, depending on the difficulty setting and your playstyle. The missions can be bite-sized or more drawn out depending on your preference, and there's no real need to play more than one level at a time from a story perspective. So if you don't have much time to play, that's not a problem with this game. You can play with friends online, no problem, though no more than 2v2. But will this game keep you busy for long? Getting through all 27 missions will undoubtedly take time, but the replayability of those missions and the skirmish modes are questionable. I can only speak from personal experience that I did replay certain levels a few times to try a different approach, but if online multiplayer is your bag, I really don't see the game justifying itself purely based on that, I'm afraid. So with all that said, is Headquarters World War II right for you today? As always, it depends who you are and what you enjoy. This game is not in any way a replacement for Xcom. In fact, I think it's rather unhelpful to hear it constantly compared to Xcom 2, as they are so different outside of being grid and turn-based games. If you're looking for the next Xcom 2, look elsewhere. A far fairer comparison is Panzer Corps 2, which I described in my review as akin to playing a game of chess. Headquarters World War II is not as challenging as Panzer Corps 2 in terms of deep strategy. However, it is more immersive and far more fluid than its Panzer Corps cousin, with awesome camera angles and less convoluted gameplay. If you are a World War II enthusiast and don't mind the occasional strategy game, then this is where Headquarters World War II becomes far more interesting. I'm not so sure about the difficult to master part, but it is definitely easy to learn, with immediate satisfaction with the immersive camera angles, great sound effects, and decent looking units. It may not go into the insane level of detail that Steel Division 2 goes to, but this game will certainly appeal to those who enjoy the occasional World War II game and want to be immersed in the stratagems of that conflict. Ultimately, this is a rather inoffensive game. I just wish it had a few more missions, a few more maps, and a few more units to help justify the price. If you have any further questions, please feel free to ask, or if you already own the game and have some additional information you'd like to add, please let us all know in the comments below. And if you found the video useful, please leave a like for the algorithm gods and consider subscribing if you'd like to see more of this style of review. See ya.